Hey, how's it going? In this video, I'm going to give you the tools that you need to be able to build out a demo, which will be very important when you're making your $1 million sales process. Now, realistically, you're not going to watch a video on YouTube and all of a sudden have $1 million demo. There is a process to it. You're going to have to get, punched in the face a few times, fail a little bit, reiterate and try again. But what this video will be for will be for you to streamline you as fast as possible. I'm going to provide you with some processes that you should follow, some tips and tricks that will get you there as fast as possible. Now, realistically, I probably didn't invent any of this stuff up. A lot of this was probably stuff I got over the internet over the past few years. But I will say that this stuff does work, and it's worked for me. This is literally the demo that I've done to get to my first $1 million. Before we talk about the demo, there is one conversation you should have already had with the potential customer, and that's the discovery. I've said this in my other video, and I'll say it again. The sale is made in the discovery. The sale is made in discovery. So no matter how good of a demo you have, if you didn't do the discovery, you're probably not going to make the sale. I had a whole other video talking about discovery, so check that one out there, and now I'm going to move into the demo. So it's a little bit hard to organize via video, but there's two big ideas I want to go over with you on how to construct your demo, and then I'm going to end the video with a bunch of tips and tricks I think are important. Okay, so the first idea I'm going to share with you is how to start your demo. And this is going to be very important because if you think about what you're actually doing in demo is you're trying to get someone to make a change in their life. And that's usually very difficult because it requires a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and a lot of things have to be just right in order for someone to want to make a change, right? So the series of slides you can show in your demo to start is you want to announce a very big change that's happening in the industry. And this is insinuating that if they don't change, this change is going to affect them. Now, to be clear, this change doesn't have anything to do with your company or it doesn't have anything to do with your product, but it's a change that's actually happening in the industry, and it has to be one that your customers actually agree with or believe in, right? Not every single potential customer has to believe in it, but the ones you're trying to sell it to have to believe that it's actually happening. Now, the next slide you want to show is because of this change, there's going to be winners and losers. And you can look at history where this change has happened in the past and there were winners and losers, and you want to show that basically people that do something when this change happens, they become a winner. If they don't do something when this change happens, they become a loser. And then you want to show a old world versus new world. And the old world is probably the things that this customer is currently doing and how crappy it is. And the new world is a way better thing all the winners are doing and how easy that is, right? And then after that, you want to talk about the new world in a way that your product is really good at, right? So like what about this new world and what people are doing is super important for your product to be doing well at. You're not mentioning your product at this point, but you're kind of implanting in their mind what's important when evaluating the new world. So up to this point, I haven't talked about my company. I haven't talked about my product at all. I've just talked about this industry change that's happening and how you're going to get affected by it. So this might be a little bit difficult to imagine right now. So what I'll do is I'll give you real world examples of a demo that I give, and you can just copy the slides if you like. And the only context you need to know about my business is that we sell software to funeral homes. And funeral homes are relatively known to be a little bit old school, a little bit slow moving. And then what our software does is imagine we do like a Shopify for funerals. Okay, that's all you need to know. So the first slide that I'll show pretty much after the agenda is going to be this slide right here. And this is my big change, right? Hey, it's 2022. People expect to have an online experience no matter where they go nowadays, right? That's pretty true. You can't really argue with it. Some funeral homes might not see it that way because, they just might not think online is important. But the mass majority of people understand, hey, things are going online, right? And you can't really argue with it. If you don't believe in this, then you're probably not a really great customer for us anyways, right? And I go on to say, hey, typically what happens when, the internet and technology reaches an industry, it gets completely disrupted, right? And the internet, these changes in these industries that are happening coincides with internet generation growing up from younger adulthood now into older adulthood. And these are the people at this point in their lives right now that are starting to plan service to their parents. So these are the people that are looking for funeral services. And the problem is most funeral homes don't have a very good process to do things online. They're not really even understanding what convenience means to the modern consumer. Okay. So that's my big change that's happening, right? And I go on to say, hey, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers. Let's look at previous industries that have been affected by technology. One would be Netflix, right? The home entertainment industry. Netflix completely dominated Blockbuster because they were really able to move things online with streaming, whereas Blockbuster didn't really do enough fast enough. They were too slow. They could have bought Netflix, but they didn't, blah, 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 blah. And now they're out of business, okay? So those might not be the exact words I'm using, but basically winners, Netflix, losers, Blockbuster. Winner did something about it, losers didn't do anything about it, okay? And I go on to say, hey, there's kind of an old way of doing things, which is probably what you're doing right now. I don't say that, but I'm showing you, hey, there's an old way of doing things, but now there's a new way of doing things. And this new way is way better, right? And it's way what people want. And I go on to say, hey, what's important in this new way of doing things? What I think is important if you're doing things online is going to be user experience, right? And I'll go on to say, hey, user experience and how you make everything easy is going to be determined on whether or not you guess want to pay you or not, right? And why do I talk about user experience? It's because I know my product has a very good user experience, right? It's beautifully built. All my competition, they're all very like slow moving. These larger companies have been around for a while. They have no focus on product or user experience or anything like that. So that's what I focus on. Also, it's true because if you're doing it online, user experience is very important. So I talk about that, right? So at this point, I have not talked about anything that we do. I've not talked about our product, our company, or anything like that. What I've given you is I've given you a big change that's happening and the effects of that change and what the winners are doing in order to, make sure that the change doesn't affect them negatively. On top of that, what are important things you should be looking for when you're trying to do something about this change? So I hope this helps illustrate how important these first few slides are because you're literally setting up the lens at which the potential customer will look at your product. And you're basically guiding them on what's important, what's not important. And you're really lighting a fire under their butt to make a change because a big change is happening. So once you develop these slides, I would always show it to anyone that you talk to for a demo. An idea I have for you that you absolutely need to implement into your demo is that right after these slides is you're gonna wanna show your social proof slides right in the beginning of the demo, right? So what these social proof slides are examples of customers that you've helped and the results of how you helped them, right? And obviously you want to show them slides of customers that you helped that are very similar to, that have problems very similar to the problems that this person has right now. But that's why I said in the beginning, if you saw my earlier videos, the first thing you should be doing as the co-founder or sales chief revenue officer, whatever you are, is you want to get that social proof. So you want to get as many testimonials or case studies as you can, so then you can shove them in the face of new potential customers. And that's going to be the best way you sell, because one of the things that you're trying to figure out as a let's call you a potential customer, is you're trying to figure out whether or not you can trust this person, right? And the fastest way to show that you can trust someone or that you can prove that you can do it is to show them that you've done in the past. So here are some examples that I would use as social proof. I would just, give the name of the customer that you're helping, how you helped them, and I would tell the story as to how this person got from point A to point B. And obviously your product probably does different things, helps people in different ways. So you want to make sure the story that you're telling is matching the product problem that this guy is trying to solve, right? So I would just go person A, tell this story, person B, oh, look at this email, tell that story, person C, tell this story. And you may not have time to go over every single person, but you want to have at least 2 or 3 solid examples for every demo that you give. And I have 50 slides like this. I don't go through all of them, obviously, but I will pick and choose which ones are relevant to this person, and I'll show them these slides. Now, one problem that I had in the beginning, and you might have as well, is it can feel a little bit awkward talking about how great you are and how awesome your product is or whatever. But what you want to do is you really want to frame it around the customer and make that customer, the person you're talking about, the hero of the story, right? And sometimes you might want to skip it, but I guarantee you, if you skip this, it's gonna hurt. If the person you're talking to gets kind of annoyed by you telling you this information, then you need to let them know why you're telling them, right? Hey, I'm telling this to you because you have the same problem and this worked for them. Here are some examples, et cetera, et cetera. So you really want to talk about this in their favor, but you absolutely cannot skip this. So at this point, they know a big change is coming in their industry. They know what to look for when trying to adjust to this change. They know they have to make a change. They can see that you have helped a lot of people make this change, and now you're ready to show them their product. So like I said before, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to build out a $1 million demo just by watching a video and not actually practicing and reiterating. But what I'll try to do is I'll try to streamline everything for you and provide a few tips that I think are very important that I've learned over the years that might speed you up a little bit, okay? So before I get started, I've already said this many times, but I gotta say it again. The sale is made in the discovery. The sale is made in the discovery. The sale is made in the discovery. If you don't have a good discovery, you're not gonna be able to do a good demo. So I'm doing this assuming that you've already asked the right questions. You already know their pain points. You know what the problems are to a good level of detail. Okay, so the most important thing that you can do in the demo is you show them what they want to see first, right? A lot of times, I know you have the script. I'm gonna show them this and that, and then at the very end, I'm gonna show this really great thing, and it's gonna tie everything together. No, what you show them first should be the best thing ever, right? Save the best for first. All right. And on that note is if you know they want to see A, and then B and C might be nice for them to see, but you don't know for sure, then don't show it, right? Don't show B and C, only show A. You maybe get asked about B and C, but don't show B and C without them asking about it. Why is that? It's because, okay, maybe if you price something, it's a bundle, it's A, B, and C together. Their problem is A, you show them A, and you show, oh, what about B and C? And they don't really care about it, right? Then they're like, why am I paying for B and C if I just want A? Can I get a discount? Or, oh, this is like too complicated, right? So you can actually hurt yourself by showing them too many things. You really want to try to avoid asking questions like, does that make sense? Or do you have any questions? Because that typically doesn't really progress the conversation anywhere. They're not terrible things to ask, but I would ask questions more like, can you see how this will X, Y, Z, right? And going into it, you probably have 2 or 3 things that this person wants to do. Hey, I want to increase my revenue by X dollars, right? So throughout the demo, you should be asking, can you see how this will increase your revenue by X dollars? Yes. Okay, got it. And then you move on and you say, can you see how this will increase your revenue by X dollars? Yes, got it, right? You want to ask that question throughout the entire demo so they understand that you're actually able to solve the problem they're trying to solve, right? You might even ask them, hey, how do you think this will increase your revenue by X dollars? They can explain to you, have them explain to you, right? So you just want to make sure you ask these questions in a very directed manner and not something general like, hey, does that make sense to you? Another thing you want to avoid doing is getting into pricing way too early. So as a rule of thumb, don't get into pricing until this person can understand the value that you're providing. And it's also good to ask them, hey, what do you like about the product? How will it help you after your demo before pricing? And have them explain to you how it's going to benefit them before pricing. Because once you get into pricing, they're not going to want to explain to you anymore because, they want to negotiate price with you, right? So it's very important for you to make sure that they understand the value before you get into pricing. All right, so those are probably the top 3 tips I can think of right now. I have a bunch more, so feel free to leave a comment and let me know you want to see them. Or if you have a question, just feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer that as well. One thing I didn't cover in this video is how to go over pricing. And I think that's a whole nother video on its own. So I'll cover that in the next video on how to show pricing, how to ask for the sale, etc. But yeah, as far as the demo goes, from the starter slides to the actual demonstration, hope this helps. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. It'd make me feel better if you subscribed.